You're listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right, here we go again. Buckle up, rough roads ahead. I feel much lighter on my feet. I gave birth to a baby Trump and flushed it. TMI, TMI. I was never TMI in my life till I met God. Well, I mean, I knew God, but I didn't have God giving me TMI all day. God's quite the. It's like working in a judge's chamber. It's actually being the sheriff's department, working in the judge's chamber. The big judge, being the clerk, being the lawyer, it's all in one. All right, let me make sure this is working. Okay, that looks good. Let me check my meter here. So I just tweeted something, Ishmael and Isaac. So when Jesus came, Rabbi Jesus, of course, he's Jewish. He's never intended anything to be Christian. So why would they do it to him? Because he's the biggest rabbi that ever existed. And Jesus said, no, you're bigger because you have less than I do. No, you had less than me. I had friends. I couldn't take my friends. And except still had the disciples, I guess. But the idea is Jesus came to explain a few things that were already in the scriptures. And actually, what never made it into the scriptures, I brought this up yesterday, is some common sense things that everybody knew back then. Oh, hang on. I got to turn my always on screen on. So, Jesus came, and he changed a few things, but didn't. He explained a few things. Jesus is Jewish. He's a rabbi. He never intended anything to be Christian. But what he did do is he clarified the Old Testament with a few modifications. Now, what's the reality of all of that? And again, there's so much more than just the Old Testament if you study Judaism. There's a ton of Torah that's oral Torah and a ton of written Torah that's not in those 5 books that the Bible has. But he came to explain the attitude of service, try to restore that. There's a lot that he didn't speak about that was known spiritually back then. It appears as like slight reference, but what was he referring to? Again, that was already known by everybody. Like they would, if Jesus was here, he'd be like, "You didn't know that. You don't know this." It's like you're ignorant, all of you. You're spiritually ignorant, metaphysically ignorant on how all of that works. So one of the things that came up over time is Jews developed this hate of Arabs. And in fact, some of the Arabs were actually Jewish. So this is a concept that, again, the idea where people thought into something and then your mind receives that thought and then it's a skewed thought. And it's not a real thought. So over the years, this idea that Ishmael is an Arab and Arabs are to be hated and all this type of thing really got out of hand and out of control. Again, any Jew is going to be real Arabs or hated. Again, Paul explained fake charity. Fake reaching out to Arabs is fake reaching out to Arabs, vice versa, vice. Again, we have a lot of outreach, but it's just rich people outreaching to rich people. There's no substance to it. There's no reality to it. Nothing, where the rubber meets the road. Thank you. So again, there is reality, and we have to live there. But of course, you all don't. You all live in your fake worlds. So that's where the problem begins, where they begin to treat Ishmael like a second-class citizen. And God even warned them that they have to be careful, because Ishmael will be difficult to control. So again, to be the chosen people is to what? Is to be hoity-toity, fanoity, haughty, stuck up, oppressive. Well, we give them all of this. You could sit before somebody and say, here, this $1 million is yours. And if you do it right, that person will never take that $1 million. You just spend their lifetime preparing them to be given that $1 million so they wouldn't take it. Spies, whether in government or private sector, whether law enforcement, intelligence, a homeless person, somebody that works at the library, knows exactly what I'm speaking about because they do it to people all day. So again, they know that you're cursing them and that you're treating them as, well, they curse us, but you're in power. So you're the up person that's supposed to be able to work all of that. But you don't want to, of course. So again, DeSantis is kind of weird out there. I have to move them out. Since there was a visit by a law enforcement officer to the guy that was in that vehicle that double parks in 2 lanes and, may have been tapping on the ceiling above me. But it was much quieter than anyone else, so I can't be sure. And again, that's part of spycraft. So now they're going to try to get it in the mind. Me broadcasting wasn't their plan. So Ishmael is Isaac's brother. Many Palestinians were Jews before they became, and Arabs were Jews before they became Islamic. Why did they become Islamic? For the same reason why they feel they need to attack Israel today. You don't accept them. And then you put it on them. It's the same thing as LGBTQ, how they're being treated by the church. So again, it's Satan's age-old plan. And then there's also the will for them not to be anything other than they become or have become. And that's, all their money, all their power, all their status to cause the Arab to act out. All right, white 911 just came up. Something's afoot. A terror act in the name of supremacy, white supremacy most likely, but it could mean something else also. So don't limit the interpretation. Well, about a week ago or less, maybe a few days ago, God brought up real quick in my mind when I was in Santa Fe, they feigned a raid on a hotel right next to us. Just to, get at me. I'm trying to think it was after I left her place or before. Probably most likely after I left the Ballas Enterprise Crooks place. I was at Motel 6 waiting for my apartment to be ready. They brought in, trying to trigger PTSD. That's what they were doing. Never saw that number of law enforcement vehicles since or before in Santa Fe, and probably most locations. For just a simple, let's go get somebody in their room, supposedly. They were looking like, did we get a reaction? I didn't think anything of it until they started staring across the lot at me because they were pissed off. I just stood there and looked at them. They wanted me to shrink into my room. But see, even if I did that, it's because they would have willed it. Again, the idea of it's safer inside when they're not paying, why stand out there, right? But I just stood there because I'm like, this smells like a fake. Remember, that's when I was helping Ukrainians also in the original thing. So again, don't just let them deceive you as to what they're actually doing. But God brought that up recently. I don't know what this was today and what happened, but God did bring that up a few days ago. Traffic's kind of gone already. That's nice. So when you get a job and see, that's what a boss should do if they can, is stagger the hours. So like if you either have them come in before rush hour or leave after rush hour, or come in after rush hour, and again the same thing in the evening. Right. Kind of like rush 2 hours, I guess. Better production, less stress driving to work. Right. Yeah, this woman's not here. She was here this morning. I think she's the manager. She might be transgender. I'm just not completely sure. Well, I've known black women that look a little bit masculine. She doesn't look entirely masculine. It's just her build looks a little masculine. Besides, Geraldine keeps coming up in my head. I don't know where that's coming from. From Flip Wilson. So again, at a certain point, it all went crazy, right? We have Flip Wilson, Geraldine, the Mummers Parade. We had, what was that guy? I was just thinking about him the other day. The guy from Monty Python, I think. Or he was on Monty Python on Lake Rail or something. He was one of those. Lithgow, John Lithgow. And he did something like that. And so again, it's it's a kind of term that they use. It's fluid. It's metaphysical. It's a lot of different things. But I don't think we've ever looked at it with a neutral mind. Either I think the mind was to prove the absolute divinity of it, or, and that was what it was going to be, regardless of what the study was, or we were going to prove that, it's from Satan, and that's, the absolute end of whatever that side of the spectrum was going to say. So some of it obviously, is a mental illness where somebody's mentally ill and they're seeking something, and gender dysphoria is where they find it. Not necessarily gender dysphoria, but the fanfare around it, something new, something different. Here's the answer to all my problems. And that can happen, again, it's not just transgender people. That happens with all sorts of physical ailments and psychological ailments and things like that. So again, it's actually human to make that error when one is suffering from something and they want it to end. So again, some of this I brought up before is allergies. People don't understand allergies and how it affects the mind. And there's a lot of other things that come off allergies that those ailments can affect the mind. So I think there is a future where it may not exist much, if at all. But again, if it's a culture thing, you know, I mean, people do all sorts of things in their culture groups. You know, you see these people getting these crazy tattoos and body modifications. The Minoans, the women in Crete, the women, they walk around with a dress with their breasts out. Their breasts were actually, you know, would just flop over their dress. So again, I'm just trying to say that because it being culture doesn't mean that it's wrong per se, right? And I think a lot of people can't wrap their head around taking what somebody does to treat their gender dysphoria and realize that sometimes it's outside of what we would consider the norm. You know, 0 to 1,000,000 miles an hour in 1 year, right? Versus, you know, some people, they try a little bit of hormone, feels okay. Now, hormones are a tricky thing because if you're a low hormone male and you take female hormones, you're going to feel better. If you're a low hormone or low, you know, I guess a hormone, and the endocrine system, you know, if your endocrine system is kind of down, which can happen if your diet's off, if you're eating the wrong foods, whatever it is. If you do the male thing, male hormones, you could feel great too, also. Now, one thing about testosterone, it's a tricky thing. Again, I explain, this is a simple way to explain that it's something that's probably deeper than what I'm explaining. But, you know, we have to do the study to figure it out. If you take too much testosterone for your body, everybody's body's different. And if you're already converting into estrogen, then you can end up converting into estrogen, and then feminine feelings could increase. Not necessarily have to, but could. So that's kind of an example that something in the body, it could be some, you know, a series of hormones when they're out of adjustment that you feel feminine. It's very possible. So when they say, well, I was born, yeah, you were born, here she comes. You were born with your endocrine system skewed for your quote unquote birth gender, or what they call assigned gender. Well, I know but it's that simple. I just actually took a supplement that's so low grade as far as doing anything hormonal compared to what, you know, bodybuilders take. And I'm not talking about high steroids, like somebody that's in the gym seriously. And I had a shift in psychology until my body built up a tolerance and then it leveled off. It's nothing. It's like maca and a couple other things, right? It's really nothing big, but it does have an effect. And that's only recent, like a week or two or something. So these things are very real. And if they realize that, oh, hormone B and hormone C is causing hormone D to react into hormone E, then that may be the whole answer to it. But why don't we fix it? Why can't we fix it? Why is that person having it instead of that's metaphysical? So again, soy can exacerbate that, especially if you're not taking anything that's, you know, male oriented. You can offset that. Again, if you took an anti-estrogen, if soy was bugging you and you have to eat soy, you can take anti-estrogens. You could eat anti-estrogens, broccoli, cauliflower. Those are anti-estrogens. So again, sometimes a woman may be going through something in life where her estrogen's low. You find out she's on a diet high in cruciferous or whatever they call it. Broccoli, cauliflower. So she's could be taking all the anti-estrogens in food form because that's a fad. It was very much a fad I guess it began in the 80s, right? Through the 90s. People still eat it, but it was like broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus. I don't know if asparagus was up there. That's kind of my thing. I haven't eaten it in years, but I used to love it. As a kid, I loved asparagus. Asparagus, corn, a little bit of broccoli there, cabbage. We were a big cabbage family. Not really, I guess, on a daily basis, but special meals. My Bubby made great cabbage soup. Just like, Bubby made cabbage soup. Everybody gets a big tub, takes it home. Ashkenazi fare. Right. Bubby could cook. I think Bubby can cook. That's what Bubby did all day, man. Cook. She's always at the boiling pot, And then, she'd go to the refrigerator, it'd be hot in the summer. She'd grab a quart of beer, put it back in, put the top on, put it back in. I don't know when Bubby stopped drinking beer, but in Philadelphia, when she was in Logan, she used to drink beer, especially in the summer. Our family's huge, there's no doubt, but we're not part of the in crowd, I guess, so they attack just automatically. If they're with Satan. The in crowd's pretty much with Satan. It's more apparent today than it's ever been. So yeah, I remember this kind of weather. It still feels a little more humid than I remember it being. Right, but I remember a lot of mornings at Fort Riley, Fort Leonard Wood like this. We're like 2 a.m. Sabbath school, 2 a.m. It's humid. You haven't slept in days. So yeah, I was in Sabbath school with Mathis. Was his name? Sorry, Mathis, I think. He was black guy, jump master. We were in Sabbath school, and we were preparing, what do they call it? The fire-based security system out of field expedient demolitions. Right? Or, yeah, munitions, I guess. Some of it was C4 and all that, so that's not field expedient. But we had food gas, that was field expedient. We had a bunch of stuff. And we hadn't slept. It was like 2 in the morning. I don't even remember what set us off, and I don't say much, I never was like that, right? Especially with an NC, But we were in Sabbath school, and everybody's like equal, same squad kind of thing. So I don't remember why we got like, we didn't get toe to toe or anything, but we're assembling the stuff, and I'm like, he's like, bleh, 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 and I'm like, bleh, bleh, bleh. I don't even remember what we said, but it's like the only time in the military that something like that happened to me, and I'm sure, he understands it too. But we were like, but then we did the fire-based mission, and they forgot to tie in like half of the munitions, so it didn't go off. We built it all, but they didn't tie in with the cherry knot, and it was just like laying there. So that's when they said, okay, safety, sleep. So they let us go to sleep for a couple hours. Yeah, we were all messed up. But it's kind of like this weather, humid. Middle of the night, but it was like 2 a.m. or something. quick, fire base the defense. Everybody breaks down in teams, starts putting their stuff together. I think I was tying cherry knots, and so was he. That's what we were doing. Unless we were carrying this stuff. Were we carrying it, or I can't remember how it all went down. But we had a bunch of field expedient demolitions. I remember doing something with a cherry knot. Our first sergeant looked like Mario from Donkey Kong. He was there. He was. I think he was at our table too, or whatever we were working on. I guess it was a table. He was at the table, and he was 173rd Airborne Brigade, Vietnam vet. He was different. And that really sucks. Like Cam Chamberlain's husband, he's got a great job. EOD is like, it's like a generally choice. I mean, in Afghanistan, it was kind of like, but you know, it's generally a choice job, right? And it's got a future. You just keep your background clean, and you can become a bomb squad guy very easily, right? It kind of sucks for him and ZX. Now, the question is, were they passive aggressed into it? Again, a lot of people call it that, but when it has a certain technological knowledge and flair to it, then it's spycraft, it's military intelligence. So again, using that against coworkers is worse than taboo. It's actually criminal. Or even members of the community trying to shift them into crime or shift them into making a mistake. Again, PIs are big on that. And, it's kind of like the class clown. We got you, but it's stupid, right? And it actually causes crime. I call them a one agency, call people or agencies one agency crime wave. Because without them, things would be much more settled. Thank you, bro. So again, I'm getting hungry now. I actually had a Spam and extra sharp cheddar cheese sandwich last night. Just had to do it. I didn't put ketchup or mayo or anything on it. I just kind of went. Extra sharp cheddar cheese is nice. It can kind of flavor food itself. You don't have to put any condiment on there. Right. It's not perfect Spam, but it's good enough. And if I didn't buy the egg yesterday. If I bought the egg with it, it'd probably been the men's. Right. I was using sausage, imitation sausage with the imitation egg. But I found bagels that were, they call them keto bagels. But you need fiber, especially when you get older, right? So always focus on fiber if you have a choice of buying bread. Again, the price is the problem. It's very expensive for these bagel thins. And then for it to be keto, it's another $1. So it's kind of pricey, but it's healthy. All right. I have another bread that I eat, like a flat bread that has high. And this one has like 16 grams of fiber in a little bagel. A flat, like a thin bagel. And then I have this flat bread that I eat. It's like 12 grams fiber. That's really where you want to put your money on. When I was younger, probably between my enlistments, I remember studying some health stuff, and they were like, you want a lot of fiber. This guy was like saying for longevity, even back then in the, I guess 80s. Right. So again, the only reason I'm alone is because they broke every possible relationship that could exist. That's the reality. That's the absolute reality. They weren't trying to save anybody. They were attempting to kill somebody for a criminal enterprise contract hit. That's what it all is, from one end to the other. They know it, and they're full of shit. what I was referencing last night. But that's not the only time they did it. It's disgusting. They're filth. They'll go to hell. I mean, just face it. That's what the scripture condemns. That type of thing. They're not trying to save anybody. Believe me. And maybe once in a while they'll do that. Right? But if you use it once corruptly, then the whole thing is corrupt. That's just the way it works. Because the rest is just corrupt cover. So I'd be having a much better life. If I was in my apartment, I'd be doing much more crafting. Right, I could have gave that guy a ride. He looks like an all right person. Right. So hopefully this person finds a vehicle, the other person, and we go right to the lot. He does, could do the paperwork beforehand. It's approved. He goes there and he gets either searches for a vehicle on the lot or has one in mind. And right. Because that's how Satan would do it. Freak him out, and he'll have me running up and down the road all day. Especially since I have discounted insurance because I keep the mileage down. So everybody that heard that's in the criminal enterprise began thinking in that direction. Increases mileage. So I have a bicycle coming. If that works and I can do that, I'll definitely decrease the amount that I use my vehicle. I mean, the big part is this. I discovered a way to stay healthy. And they entered in, tried to sexualize me there. And when I wouldn't sexualize, made up some bullshit and put me out. And then made it difficult to get back to it. Again, the watch is what does it. Because they're devils, demons, antichrists, witches, and sorcerers, and they're projecting a block. But there's also a psychological effect, but there's also a metaphysical effect off of their psychological work and their physical work. What it does is, that you punk someone out, and it's just so skewed. I mean, it's just like class clowns running around doing a bunch of crap, and then they get up and you go down because they're the class clowns. So again, the world has been reversed. People are getting paid for bad things. Even when they're doing something good, they're part of a bad society. So then it's not good at that point. Thank you. Oh, I wanted to bring this up. I don't believe the email from the Texas State Trooper completely. I believe the events happened, but I'm not too sure. Again, what level are they telling them to push them back into the water? What are we actually seeing? Are we seeing an incident at a lower level just happening as it's unfolding? I'm not saying it's right, but what's being alleged is that there's a systemic order to push children into the water and infants into the water, right? And again, Constantina's there. Go around the Constantina. Don't go through it. What you might want to do, and this is what I recommend, your lawyer should have actually already recommended it. You have to create signs warning them not to enter the Constantina and to go around the Constantina if they need to, seek some sort of help. Right. Well, that was the key to the obstacle, is to funnel them into the, and again, I don't think Texas has this in mind, again, the idea of what the motivation is. The idea of the obstacle is to funnel them to the Border Patrol entrance locations. Like you build the fence, you build fences, and whatever it is you use for highly patrol the area between the entrance gates to cause them to go to the gates and meet up with somebody, and then yay or nay. Right. So again, a sign like that would say, do not enter into the Constantina. You'll get injured. It could kill you, whatever you want to say. And then we advise that if you need help, that you go to the this station or that station. Okay. And that's where they can help you. Well, they're trying to articulate something that probably isn't true. I mean, it could be. Well, if you have a National Guard or a law enforcement officer that's at a certain level, doing that, it doesn't mean that it's systemic. Now, the attitude could be systemic, but it still doesn't mean that it's being ordered from where theoretically the email alleged. Again, I didn't see the email. I just read reporting on the email from the state trooper. And he's probably right. If something's happening and it's not getting taken care of, he needs to speak about it. But the question is, at what level is it actually occurring? And I think that's where we are. And again, Texas can then refute it because it's not happening the way they're saying it, but it is happening, and they may not be handling it. That's one of the issues where they're not actually investigating it and then removing somebody from that location and putting them somewhere else. Reassignment, because they're just not cut out to be in that location. Right. So there's no doubt something like that happened. There's no doubt that they whitewashed what the Border Patrol people were doing with those horses and those reins. Right. So again, we don't want to encourage that. We don't want that happening. They're there to enforce the law, not to punish people attempting to do whatever it is they're doing. That's what I saw. And at first it was like something's happening. And then I read it a little further, and it's like, no, it's not. I don't think it's at that level. And you could even have somebody that's like a lieutenant, a captain, whatever it is, saying that, but it still doesn't. It still wouldn't be the way it was reported. Again, I don't know if the email actually said it was the way it was reported. They may have been skewing the reporting, right? They're kind of like an official policy, quote unquote. That's how it came out in the reporting, right? And again, you don't want them to get to the point where, we should cut their nose off, their ear off, and take it a trophy. That happened in Vietnam. Right? And I guess some of that happened in Desert Storm, which is strange. I never thought that would happen. So you want to try to adjust the attitude and fix it. You don't want to just look the other way. And obviously it could cause additional drowning. Those buoys can cause additional drowning. But again, what's actually causing it? That idea that they have to get here at all costs. Where is that coming from? From people that want to take advantage of them, as far as telling them the United States will absolutely unconditionally accept them. And that includes Republicans, as strange as that is. So it is what it is. It isn't what it isn't. All right. So I think I'm going to cut it off here. Stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do.